With that, I would like to open agenda item 16.4, cooperation with other international bodies and organizations. I give the floor to the Secretariat for the introduction of the documents 16.4, 16.4.2, and 16.4.3, and how we will proceed afterwards. After the introduction, I first will open the floor for statements by international organizations, then by Article 15 organizations, then I will give the floor to Norway, and once we've heard it all, I will open the floor for interventions from contacting parties and observers. With that, Secretariat, take us away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under item 16.4, 3 documents have been submitted regarding cooperation with other organizations for consideration by the governing body. Each of the 3 documents contains elements for a resolution in its annex. The first document, IT/GB 11/25/16.4, has been prepared in response to Resolution 14/2023 to provide a summary report on major developments occurred and collaborative activities undertaken since the 10th session of the governing body, in cooperation and partnerships with other organizations and relevant stakeholder groups. The report covers cooperation and partnerships with various international and regional organizations, as well as different stakeholder groups, including with new institutions and initiatives that support the objectives of the international treaty. Collaboration and partnerships have been continuously growing during this biennium, further advancing the recognition and implementation of the international treaty globally. Regarding document 16.4.2, at its 10th session of the governing body requested institutions that have concluded agreements under Article 15 of the International Treaty to continue providing reports on the implementation of the agreement. The document contains a synthesis of reports submitted by Article 15 signatory institutions and other international institutions holding germplasm collections. The governing body may wish to note that for the first time since the entry into force of the international treaty, non-CGIAR institutions have submitted harmonized reports to the governing body. The document also contains updates on activities carried out by Secretary in support of the implementation of Article 15, including his efforts to promote the conclusion of new Article 15 agreements. The information document 16.4.2/Inf1 compiles all the reports and also contains the technical analysis of the non-CGIAR reports made by the Global Crop Diversity Trust. The last document, 16.4.3, contains the report submitted by the Government of Norway regarding the management and operations of the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, in response to the governing body's invitation through Resolution 14/2023. The report provides the updates on progress made since the 10th session of the governing body regarding the management and operation of the seed vault. It includes information on the status of the deposit to the seed vault, a summary of the International Advisory Panel meeting, which was held in February 2025 and chaired by the chair of the governing body, Mr. Alwyn Copps, as well as regarding documentation and communication. The governing body is invited to take note of the information contained in the 3 documents submitted regarding the progress made in collaboration and partnerships with the relevant institutions, and consider the draft elements for resolution also contained in each of the 3 documents to provide further guidance as appropriate for continued effective cooperation with the relevant international organizations and bodies. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Aya, for the introduction into the documents. I would now like to open the floor to international organizations to make a brief statement, and followed by Article 15 bodies. So far I only have Article 15 bodies, which is fine by me as well. I do have now a the United Nations Human Rights Special Procedures, the chair of the working group on peasants' rights. You have the floor, sir. Can you give the floor to position 189, please?
Just now.
Hola, ya. Bueno, mi nombre es Carlos Duarte.
I'm Carlos Duarte. Hello. I'm the current chair of the working group of peasants and other people living in rural areas under the UN special procedures. I thank the chair and the parties for allowing me to address this important meeting. I'd only like to point out 4 things that we believe are important and could be a contribution to the process. I'd like to highlight the importance of seeds and other plant genetic resources for the survival and reproduction of peasants' life across the world. Secondly, we'd like to highlight the existence of an international tool such as a declaration of peasants and other people working in rural areas known as UNDROP. This is a tool that it took us 15 years to develop, and it includes 28 articles and is probably the most powerful tool to reconcile the rights of peasants worldwide facing the different challenges at present. The declaration has a specific article on the rights of peasants to the intellectual property of their seeds, to their use and conservation, and to also enjoy all the benefits stemming from any seed marketing. The Article 19 can remarkably supplement Article 9 of this treaty, and our proposal goes in that direction. We believe it's important to update Article 9 based on this declaration, because the declaration, together with the UNDRIP, or the Declaration of Indigenous People, are the basis for advocating for rural populations' rights across the world, and they are an essential part of global food sustainability. Likewise, we believe that Article 9, Article 5, 6, and 13 of the treaty are a part of a set of procedures that would allow us to ensure the participation of peasants and indigenous communities in seed-related discussions. And with full respect, we thus propose that the treaty and the declaration be linked. We think this is feasible because they are heading in the same direction. And we'd also like to propose setting up a body to follow up on Article 9 of the treaty, made up of peasant organizations and interested civil society organizations, to materialize what is outlined in Article 9 in each of the national states. And to conclude, I'd like to underscore that currently the Treaty on the Rights of Peasants and Indigenous Communities is not being duly fulfilled. The latest reports submitted in Geneva and New York are mentioning the lack of participation in peasants on decisions regarding their seeds. And there's regretfully persecution of those peasants that use their own genetic material. Because of that clash between the treaty and OPOP. And we believe firmly that the treaty must clearly state to the parties that conservation and maintenance of the seeds for peasants is one of their rights that must not be persecuted. And for the countries, it's very important to know that not everything goes through courts. There are public policies that are exerting pressure on peasants to use the same package of seeds. And this makes the process unsustainable, and it goes against the Treaty on Biogenetic Diversity regarding the genetic material used by our peasants across the world. I thank you for this opportunity. And as a working group, we humbly offer to support the technical discussions of the treaty, because peasants without seeds will find it difficult to live in this world. And if there are no peasants, there's no food in the world. 70% of food worldwide is produced through family and peasant agriculture. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. I call now on CGRA, followed by SPC. CGIRA, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. CGIAR submitted 3 reports to this meeting. The first concerns the experiences of the 11 CGIAR centers managing Article 15 collections under the treaty framework pursuant to the agreements that those 11 centers signed in 2006 with the governing body. Those reports include information on gene bank holdings, exchanges of genetic material, both acquiring it and distributing it from the gene banks and the breeding programs, our efforts to improve those collections to make sure that they're free of quarantine pests and diseases, and research that we're conducting to increase the efficiency and lower the costs per accession of conservation in the gene banks. A second report concerned capacity sharing with national partners to use digital sequence information to enhance agrobiodiversity conservation and plant breeding programs. And that highlights our efforts with our partners to scale up that work at a coordinated regional level. And I think we've developed some models that are of interest, which we hope could be embedded in and scaled up still further as part of the evolving plant treaty capacity building strategy and action plan as it moves forward over the next years. Our third report concerns the state of compliance of the centers with the CGIAR principles on the management of intellectual assets. As stressed on Monday by the Director General of the International Potato Center, Simon Heck, in the opening session, and by the CGIAR Chief Scientist, Sandra Milak, the Plant Treaty provides essential policy support for all of our efforts to conserve plant genetic resources for food and agriculture, and for its sustainable use, including in agricultural research and development, including the efforts of the CGIAR. We are proud of the role we play in the Plant Treaty framework and in the Plant Treaty community. CGIAR scientists participate actively in working groups, webinars, special meetings, and a range of other activities coordinated by the Plant Treaty and under the Plant Treaty framework, and we engage the Secretariat members whenever we can, probably more than they would like, in a range of activities, projects, training workshops, and analysis of our own internal policies to ensure compliance with the Plant Treaty on a day-to-day basis, month-to-month basis. I'd just like to close by saying, by underscoring, we highly appreciate the professionalism, the proactive engagement of the Secretariat, who always appear to be there to respond when we need them. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much. I have SPC. You have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chair. Allow me on behalf of the Pacific Community SPC to first acknowledge with profound gratitude the governments of Peru and Switzerland for their generous support in convening this 11th session of the governing body. We also thank the Treaty Secretariat and your leadership for the excellent organization of this meeting. This is the first time the Pacific community takes the floor, and I am honored to speak on behalf of the non-CGIAR Article 15 signatory institutions and other non-signatory international institutions that hold germplasm collections that have, for the first time, jointly submitted their reports through the Global Crop Diversity Trust and the International Treaty Secretariat to the 11th session of the governing body. These collections include 8 Article 15 signatory institutions and 3 international institutions that, although not formally bound by Article 15, are committed to ex situ conservation and distribute genetic resources for plant genetic resources for food and agriculture on regional and international scales. The reports were prepared based on a common template as agreed at the workshop that the Secretariat of the International Treaty and the Crop Trust jointly convened in Dubai in December 2024 with the financial support of the Norwegian government. This harmonization has made it possible to provide consistent and accurate data on the conservation, safety, duplication, and distribution of genetic resources held in these collections, on the status of their gene bank information systems, as well as on their financial resources and human capacity. Based on the information provided, the Crop Trust has prepared the technical analysis of the non-CGIAR reports for this 11th session. As pointed out in the Crop Trust report, non-CGIAR Article 15 and other international collections have demonstrated resilience and innovation in fulfilling their conservation mandates. At the same time, the institutions are also facing challenges requiring solutions that exceed the capacity of individual institutions or host countries. The forming of this network of institutions that the Dubai meeting promoted should assist in addressing the challenges through strengthened support mechanisms and collaborative frameworks, ensuring that all Article 15 and other gene banks remain pillars of international conservation efforts and a foundation for global food security. A next step in strengthening this network was taken here in Lima, where the non-CGIAR institutions convened for a workshop organized by the Crop Trust and the Treaty Secretariat ahead of this session of the governing body to discuss how to further deepen their collaborative efforts. Initiatives agreed at the meeting include exploring further funding opportunities and for the non-signatories support to the decision-making process, a new name for the network, and technical synergies regarding clonal crop accessions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for your substantive report. Now I would like to call on the Government of Norway to present the report on the management and operations of the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since this is the first time that Norway takes the floor in this session, we would like to thank the governments of Peru and Switzerland for co-hosting this session and to the Secretariat for your facilitation. Norway is pleased to present its report, document 16.4.3 on the management and operations of the Svalbard Global Seed Vault for the period 2023 to 2025. After 17 years of operation, the Seed Vault continues to serve as a cornerstone of global efforts to safeguard plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. By October 2025, 131 gene banks have deposited a total of about 1.4 million seed accessions, representing 1,238 genera and 6,521 species. These safety duplicates are stored under optimal conditions, in line with FAO gene bank standards, ensuring long-term security for unique crop diversity. We are proud to note that 2024 saw the highest number of new depositors since the vault's opening, with 21 gene banks joining from countries across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. These achievements reflects the importance of support from initiatives such as BOLD, Biodiversity for Opportunities, Livelihoods and Development, the Seeds for Resilience, and the Benefit Sharing Fund of the International Treaty, which provide technical and financial support to gene banks in developing countries. The Seed Vault also hosts the 100-year Seed Longevity Experiment. This experiment is now fully established and will generate invaluable data on seeds' viability over time. The International Advisory Panel met in Svalbard in February 2025 and confirmed that the vault's safety and security measures remain robust. The panel recommended developing a contingency plan to address potential permafrost changes and discussed policy consideration for the possible inclusion of forest genetic resources. We are grateful to all the participants serving as members of the panel, and especially thankful to you, Mr. Chair, for your excellent guidance and chairmanship of the International Advisory Panel. Recent events underscore the importance of this global backup system. For example, following the destruction of Sudan's national gene bank during conflict, rescued seed samples, including sorghum varieties vital to Sudanese food security, were safely deposited in the vault with support from the Emergency Reserve for Gene Banks. Norway remains committed to transparency and international collaboration. We continue to work closely with the Crop Trust, Nordgen, and the International Treaty Secretariat to strengthen linkages between the Seed Vault and the treaty's global information system and to promote communication and outreach. Finally, we would like to invite contracting parties and partners to make use of the Seed Vault as part of their strategy for securing crop diversity. We also encourage donors support efforts that enable more gene banks to deposit seeds. Chair, Norway thanks the governing body for its continued support and look forward to constructive discussions on how we can further strengthen this global safety net for plant genetic resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the Government of Norway for this report. I would now like to open the floor for interventions. Please note that documents 16.4, 16.4.2 and 16.4.3 contain elements of possible resolutions for consideration by the governing body. So please, in your interventions, if you have comments to those resolutions, specify which one you address. This would make our life up here much easier. With that, I open the floor, and I recognize Sierra Leone, followed by Nepal. Sierra Leone, you have the floor. Estonia, Nepal, you have the floor. Also, it's very interesting, all these names disappear. So let's start with Estonia, followed by Japan. Estonia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good morning, everybody. I speak on behalf of the European Regional Group. We thank the Secretariat for preparing the documents and all partner organizations and stakeholders for the valuable contributions during this intersessional period. We welcome the strengthened cooperation between the Treaty Secretariat and its key partners, including the African Union Commission, the Alliance for Biodiversity International, CIAT, PGCI, UNEP, WIPO, and the liaison group of biodiversity-related conventions. We welcome the establishment of the Global Conservation Consortium for Food Plants, coordinated by PGCI, and its role in linking agricultural and botanical conservation networks. We thank all institutions that have submitted reports under Article 15 of the International Treaty. We particularly welcome the joint CGIAR report and the participation of new non-CGIAR institutions, as well as the introduction and use of harmonized reporting template that increases transparency and comparability. We welcome the efforts of the Secretary and the Crop Trust to safeguard at-risk collections through the joint funding facility established with the financial support of NORAD. We thank the Government of Norway for the comprehensive work in relation to the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. We appreciate the continued safe and effective operation of the facility and the new deposits from 21 first-time gene banks supported by the BOLD and Seed for Resilience projects. We acknowledge the deposit of rescued Sudanese seed collections that illustrates that its vital role in safeguarding agrobiodiversity and agricultural resilience. We also note the potential contribution of the Seed Vault to the conservation of forest genetic resources and welcome discussions in relevant fora such as the CGRFA. We thank UNEP for their role in facilitating the Bern process to enhance cooperation among biodiversity-related conventions for the implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Network. As the implementation of the Plant Treaty contributes directly to several GBF targets, we appreciate the Secretariat's continued engagement in the Bern process and invite it to continue this valuable work and report progress to the governing body. Similarly, we further encourage contracting parties to remain actively engaged in the Bern process, as we can only achieve the KM-GBF if we all work together. We accept the draft resolution with a small addition in Part 3 and a new paragraph related to the Bern process in Part 1, which I will now read out. And I now go to the draft resolution, Part 1, and we propose to add a new para after number 7, and it reads, welcomes the work facilitated by UNEP under the Bern process on cooperation among the relevant multilateral environmental agreements for the implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, including the outcomes of its third conference, and requests the Secretary and encourages contracting parties to continue actively engaged in this effort, contributing to effective and efficient implementation of the KM-GBF. And the second addition is in Part 3, which is unnumbered, but I believe it's the paragraph number 4, beginning with welcomes the development of procedures, and we would insert after procedures, comma, in consultation with the CGRFA. And the paragraph would then read, welcomes the development of procedures in consultation with the CGRFA to facilitate the deposit of orthodox seeds in forest genetic resources in the seed vault, etc. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Estonia, speaking for Europe. I have Japan, followed by Libya. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Japan would like to thank you, the Secretariat, for preparing this document. We do have comments on item 16.4, the resolution. Let me just open up, sorry. So regarding paragraph 2, Japan would like to add these words right after the mutually supportive manner, comma, respecting contracting parties' sovereignty in drafting national law, comma, affirming that international treaties shall not be interpreted in any way, implying any way a change in the rights and obligation of the contracting parties under other international agreements, as stated in the preamble of the ITPGR treaty. Thank you. And also for paragraph 13, we would like to have the same words that I just said after and agreed programs, comma. And finally, for paragraph 14, we would like to put the word relevant agenda of the after the report to the, so it would read as request the Secretary to continue to report to the relevant agenda of the governing body. Thank you. We will be handing our comments in as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. I have Libya, followed by Zambia. Libya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the chair. Good morning, everyone. It is my honor to speak on behalf of the Near East regarding the cooperation between the International Treaty for Plant Genetic Resources for Agriculture and the other international bodies and organizations in the 11th Governing Body Session. The Near East region would like to express its appreciation of the continuous efforts that the Secretariat deploys and the contracting parties to enhance the cooperation between other international organizations, and this organization is a pillar in supporting food security and preserving plant biodiversity and enhance agricultural sustainability on the regional and international levels. And the coordination between the treaty and these organizations and body contributes to unifying the efforts and exchange of expertise and complement the implementations and enhance the programs and regional programs related to genetic resources, food and agriculture. The Near East region underlines the importance of developing mechanisms with all international bodies and organizations, including the exchange of information and data on plant genetic resources in a transparent and unified way, and enhance the mechanisms and the sustainable use of plant genetic resources and benefit from technical expertise of these organizations in order to enhance the countries' capacities to implement the treaty. And the Near East region also underlines that the cooperation should enable the members to enhance their institutional and technical capacities in order and implement international initiatives, and also train the groups and bodies to and support the gene banks and on the national and regional levels, and so that they are in conformity with international standards. The region also underlines the importance of cooperating with international bodies regarding the practical targets of food security and safeguard the agricultural heritage through the sustainable use of the plant genetic resources in order to develop items facing the climate challenges, and also support the innovation of in agriculture in order to enhance productivity. And the region also underlines the importance of having funding mechanisms to support the cooperation between the treaty and international bodies and organizations, and also encourages the allocation of resources, financial resources of developing countries and the less able. Also enhance the cooperation with donor organizations to build capacities and setting programs and flexible programs to support the national needs in a comprehensive manner. The Near East region sees that the cooperation should include the exchange of expertise between members, and the international bodies support joint programs for research regarding plant genetic resources, enhance the coordination between the treaty and the international organizations to safeguard the integration of policies and initiatives to benefit in a maximum way. Also, the Near East also underlines its commitment to supporting the cooperation between the international treaty and the other initiatives and bodies in a way to contribute the protection of agricultural diversity and enhancing food security and developing the national capacities and the safeguarding the sustainability of resources for the current generations and the coming generations. Also, the region also is ready to work with the Secretariat and other bodies in order to reach a sustainable cooperation between all parties to serve all the interests of the member countries. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Libya. Followed by Uruguay. Zambia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Zambia takes the floor on behalf of the African region. Africa takes note of the report on cooperation with other international bodies and organizations under ITGB/11 25/16.4. And we thank the Secretariat for producing this report and the other documents under item 16 of the agenda. The region supports the resolutions contained in this document. The report provides a summary of major developments and activities undertaken since the 10th session of the governing body regarding cooperation and partnerships with other international bodies and organizations, as well as with other relevant stakeholder groups. The region supports the Secretariat's continued and expanded collaboration with the Alliance of Biovisit International and the International Center for Tropical Agriculture, CIAT, to support and enhance implementation of the international treaty. As Africa region, we would like to note and appreciate the continued collaboration with and support by the relevant international organizations and other stakeholder groups in order to advance the objectives and implementation of the treaty. Africa region reaffirms the need to continue the efforts necessary to ensure that the international treaty's objectives and role in the conservation and sustainable use of PGLFI are recognized and supported by relevant international institutions, organizations, and processes. As a region, we welcome the continued implementation of the Joint Capacity Building Program with the Alliance of Biovisit International and CIAT, and reaffirms the need to expand the program and to ensure that the Secretary continues to play an active role in the coordination, monitoring, and analysis of results and impacts, subject to availability of funds, resources, and calls upon contracting parties and donors to provide additional funding to support the continuation of the relevant activities. Africa region urges the Secretary to continue to strengthen cooperation and synergies with other biodiversity-related conventions, members in particular for the mutual supportive implementation of Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and encourages the members of the BLG to continue their overall collaboration in accordance with their respective mandates, legal authority, and responsibilities. We would like to welcome the continued support and the coordination provided by the African Union Commission for contracting parties from the African region in implementation of the international treaty, and request the Secretary to continue to strengthen this collaboration, as well as to seek opportunities to establish cooperation with other relevant regional organizations and institutions for promotion and implementation of international treaty. The Secretary should continue to foster cooperation with other international organizations, regional initiatives, and relevant stakeholders, and to strengthen existing cooperation arrangements with a view of developing synergies consistent with their respective mandates, governance structures, and agreed programs, and subject to availability of resources. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Zambia, Uruguay, followed by Canada. Uruguay, you have the floor.
Gracias.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the very detailed reports and the work carried out by all organizations and contracting parties towards achieving these outcomes. The community of practices of germplasm banks in Latin America and the Caribbean was established in 2022 as a platform for collaboration headed by the CGIAR centers and the national research institutions of 13 countries in our region. Its purpose is to strengthen regional cooperation in the conservation and sustainable use of plant genetic resources through training, joint analysis, and the generation of DSI. In only 3 years, the community has set up working groups by crop, implementing genotype and diversity and national collection analysis, and started discussions on setting up regional core banks. This coordinated effort is improving efficiency, visibility, and the political alignment of national banks whilst sharing standards and trust. That's why in the draft resolution of document 16.4, we request to have the following text added in the annex. We welcome the community of practices of germplasm banks of Latin America and the Caribbean and request contracting parties to firstly recognize and support the community as a regional mechanism that contributes to fulfilling the objectives of the treaties. Number 2, invest in capacity development and data infrastructure, allowing equitable access to genomic tools. Thirdly, integrate this topic in the national agendas to ensure its financing and consistency. Strengthening these regional partnerships will contribute to the conservation, sustainable use, farmers' rights, and the global information system. Fostering the collective safeguarding of crop diversity, increasing resilience vis-à-vis climate change, and ensuring a fair and equitable participation in BSF. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Uruguay, I have Canada, followed by Paraguay. Canada, Isabella Paval.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Canada acknowledges the many successful interactions by the Secretary with several international organizations and collaborations with other conventions and organizations. Cooperation is essential to further develop and maintain an adequate positioning of the treaty in relevant international policy processes. The treaty is recognized as playing an important role in addressing the global challenge of food security against climate change and promoting the sustainable use of the genetic resources. Canada supports the draft resolution contained within the annexes of the working documents with minor editorial changes as such. In paragraph 7, at the end, we replace the full stop by a comma and add subject to the availability of financial resources. In paragraph 10, we suggest changing the word urges by invites. In paragraph 14, Canada suggests the following changes. We strike out takes note and replaces with welcomes the progress made with cryopreservation. And after CGIAR centers, we add, in cooperation with national partners, encourages more such work to lower the cost of conservation under the framework of the international treaty, and then the paragraph continues. And after stakeholders, we suggest to strike out to support governance and policy arrangements for cryopreservation in the framework of the international treaty, and then the paragraph continues as it is. I have submitted the changes to the Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Canada, Paraguay, followed by the United States. I also have Tuvalu, Ecuador, Mongolia, and Zimbabwe. And I will close the list of interventions after the statement made by Paraguay. Paraguay, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chair. These comments refer to document 16.4 in the draft resolution, paragraph 7. We propose to add "and other documents" after the agreement so as to avoid that it be interpreted that the global biodiversity framework of Kunming-Montreal is a convention. It's, in fact, a framework document.
Thank you. Paraguay, United States, followed by Tuvalu. United States, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The United States thanks the Secretariat for the preparation of the document and the updates on all of the important work with other international organizations and conventions that is supporting the effective implementation of the international treaty. The United States can support the draft resolution with a few edits, which I'll read out. In paragraph 2, we would add in the third line after supportive and non-duplicative, because it is important that both that international bodies and organizations and the treaty are mutually supportive and that they are non-duplicative. In paragraph 7, we would delete the words "and synergies" in the first line. This is because we believe that synergies should be implemented at the national level, including through national focal points. For the same reason, we would delete the word "synergies" in the third line of paragraph 13 as well. Also in paragraph 7, we have a legal edit in the last full line. We would replace the words "in accordance with" the words "in line with" to avoid using language that could suggest legally binding effect in the context of non-legally binding language. And in paragraph 12, we request to replace the first word "encourages" with "invites." Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you much to the United States. Tuvalu, followed by Ecuador. Tuvalu, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tuvalu speak on behalf of the Southwest Pacific, Item 16 Crop Trust and CGIAR Cooperation, IT/TB11/25/16.2 and 16.2.2. The Southwest Pacific welcomes the report under Item 16 and acknowledge the long-standing cooperation between the International Treaty and the Global Crop Diversity Trust. We also appreciate the continued policy guidance and advisory support provided by the Treaty Secretariat, which is vital for regions like ours with small teams and significant climate and disaster pressures. For our small island developing stages, these global partnerships are essential. As the Article 15 Regional Gene Bank, CPEC relies on the Crop Trust and CGIAR centers to meet FAO Gene Bank standards, strengthen quality management, and ensure the long-term conservation and availability of our regionally important crops. Chair, we deeply value the Crop Trust's ongoing support to CPEC, including investment in documentation, packaging, assessment, availability, safety duplication pathways, and preparation for cryopreservations. These efforts directly help our countries meet treaty obligations and strengthen resilient food systems. The Southwest Pacific would also like to place On record, our appreciation for the CGIAR centers, their continued cooperation through plasma health work, characterization and evaluation, breeding related capacities and data systems remain highly beneficial for CPEC and our national programs. We further welcome the effort to streamline Article 15 reporting across institutions, including for non-CGIAR Article 15 gene banks such as CPEC. For small regional centers, this harmonized approach reduces reporting burdens and allows more time to focus on technical delivery and services to member countries. Chair, to conclude, the Southwest Pacific looks forward to continued support of the Treaty Secretariat, the Crop Trust, and the CGIAR systems in responding to the BGR capacity building needs we have highlighted in our recent meetings and in strengthening our regional gene bank and network as we work toward resilience, diverse, and climate-ready agriculture systems across our islands. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tuvalu. I have Ecuador followed by Yemen. Ecuador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings, everyone. I'm making reference to document 16.4.2. Ecuador welcomes with satisfaction the elements contained within the annexes. We sent in October 2025 890 accessions, 395 extensions of beans, lipids, beans, and other accessions, including corn, all with the assistance of the Crop Trust. Over the coming years, we will continue sending duplicate samples from the interior of the country to the Svalbard seed fold. Thank you, Chair.
I have Yemen followed by Mongolia. Yemen, you have the floor.
Bismillah.
Good morning. I would like to thank all of those who prepared this scientific event, and this is an effort deployed by Switzerland and the Republic of Peru. And we would like to thank all the crew and all the services who have not spared any effort in making this event a success. In Yemen, we encourage the role of, support the role of the international treaty and the establishment of cooperations with international bodies in order to enhance the role of the treaty, and in particular reducing the gap and regarding the technological aspect and scientific aspect between the developed countries and developing countries, because we are on the same boat and because of the climate changes and because of the deterioration and the loss of and the categories that enhance the sustainable development, we have to allocate our efforts in order to establish community genetic banks in order to safeguard the genetic resources for the future and for sharing the benefits, because we cannot have those updated technologies and modern technologies in one country and not have it in others. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Yemen. I have a Mongolia followed by Zimbabwe, which would bring us to the end of the list of contracting parties. Almost. Mongolia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the Asia region, I would like to express our appreciation on the recent outstanding cooperation of the Treaty Secretariat with the various international, regional organizations, institutions, and social private sectors relevant to the global conservation of PGRFA and food security. The Asia region believes that the successful implementation of treaty is a collective effort of all relevant stakeholders for global food security. The effective and efficient collaboration and partnership with the international, regional organizations, institutions, and processes is essential in supporting and advancing the treaty implementation. We thank all the members of the relevant secretariat involved for the cooperating toward this end. Recognizing the uniqueness of the different mandates of each instrument, we think that it is important to promote coherence and mutual cooperation between the treaty and relevant instruments. The treaty has established and operates the multilateral system as its own schema, taking into account the special nature of PGRFA. In this regard, the treaty has an important role to play, not just an authority in all matters related to PGRFA, but in the matters related to climate change and loss of biodiversity. The Asia region believes that the treaty should take approaches to ensure that it is recognized as a specialized instrument in creating an enabling environment for and facilitating access to PGRFA, as well as to building capacity to generate, use, share, and access data for conservation, development, and sustainable use of PGRFA. All important matters related to plant genetic resources for food and agriculture should continue to be handled by the ITPGRFA, taking into account the special nature of PGRFA, their distinctive features, as well as the problems which may require distinctive solutions. The Asia region encourages the Secretary to continue participating in relevant meetings as appropriate and to report to the Bureau, including on cooperation with other relevant international bodies and organizations and related collaborative activities. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. A Mongolia of Zimbabwe, followed by Peru. Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, since Zimbabwe takes the floor for the first time, we would like to applaud you, Chair, for steering this session smoothly and tirelessly. We further applaud governments of Peru and Switzerland for successfully co-hosting this 11th session. We further thank the Treaty Secretariat for successfully coordinating the convening of this session, as well as the timeous preparation of the working documents. Zimbabwe supports the statement made by the Africa region, and in addition wish to make the following brief remarks in our national capacity. We wish to express our sincere appreciation for the support provided by the Crop Diversity Trust through the Biodiversity for Opportunities, Livelihoods and Development Project, the BOLD project. This crucial partnership has directly facilitated the regeneration, characterization, and most importantly, the safety duplication at this Svalbard Global Seed Vault of over 1,000 accession of crop germplasm from Zimbabwe. This achievement is a significant step in securing our national genetic heritage and a concrete contribution to global food security. In this context, we warmly welcome the report from the Government of Norway on the management and operations of the Seed Vault. We fully reaffirm that this Svalbard Global Seed Vault is a crucial element of the global system for the ex situ conservation of PGRFA. The security measures, including strict entry restrictions, are vital for ensuring the integrity of this global insurance policy. We commend the ongoing efforts to support national gene banks and encourage other donors to contribute to these vital activities. We also welcome the procedures to facilitate the deposit of forest genetic resources and reconvening of the International Advisory Panel. Zimbabwe reiterates the invitation for all contracting parties to consider utilizing the Seed Vault as a core part of their conservation strategy. We further request the Secretary to continue strengthening the practical linkages between the treaty and the Seed Vault, including through data sharing, via the global information system. I thank you.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. Peru, followed by Argentina. Peru, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Very briefly, I'd like to express our satisfaction with the recent deposit of the Peruvian peppers in the global vault of Svalbard in Norway. This is a contribution reinforcing the conservation of our genetic heritage, helping to world food security. This action is framed fully within the framework of this treaty because it recognizes the contribution of peasants in the conservation of biodiversity and reaffirms the role of Peru as one of the main centers of origin and genetic diversity. Genetic diversity and origin. This deposit contributes to climate resilience, agrarian renewal, and the commitment of the country to international cooperation and the strengthening of the treaty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peru. I have Argentina, followed by BGCI. Argentina, you have the floor.
Although we love to speak in Spanish, we realize that it's much easier to do interventions in English for the purpose of the text. Argentina has some comments regarding the documents 16.4 and 16.42. We will submit them in written, but just to give you an idea, we suggest in operative paragraph 1 of document 16.4, adding a reference for food and agriculture and the fair and equitable sharing of the benefits arising from their use to remind the objectives of the treaty and keep them all together. Then in operative paragraph 2, when referring to financial resources, it would be important to highlight the need for human resources as well. So we would suggest subjecting the Secretariat to facilitate such initiatives to the availability of human and financial resources. We also would like to express our support for the expansion of the Joint Capacity Building Program as it is envisioned now in paragraph 6. And in the following paragraph, that's the 7, we will request replacing the verb encourages by call to make it a little bit stronger. Now turning to document 16.4.2, it's only one suggestion in operative paragraph 2. And once again, it's to replace the term encourage by request. And the aim of this modification is to contribute to establish a reporting system that enable parties to get information about the management of the resources under the SML that conducted by the institutions that are mentioned in Article 15. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Argentina. I have the Botanical Gardens Conservation Initiative. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing us to make a final statement. Botanic Gardens Conservation International represents 967 botanic gardens in over 100 countries, collectively safeguarding more than 1/3 of all known plant species in living collections, seed banks, and tissue culture facilities. Their collections complement national and international gene banks by adding conservation of perennials and trees and wild plant species, as well as providing taxonomic expertise, cultivation knowledge, botanical research, and outreach and education. Botanic gardens also play a role in access and benefit sharing, as many of them are both users and providers of genetic material. BGCI supports this work through global databases and a certification scheme, which helps to ensure that plant material is exchanged with appropriate documentation and permissions. In addition, BGCI coordinates global conservation consortia, which unite institutions to collaborate on actions to conserve specific threatened plant families and groups. We wish to highlight the launch of the newest consortium, the Global Conservation Consortium for Food Plants, co-led by BGCI and New York Botanical Garden together with the Crop Trust and Plant Treaty Secretariat. This consortium strengthens international cooperation to conserve PGRFA and supports the objectives of the international treaty as noted in the report and draft resolution. BGCI was honoured to lead the development of the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation 2020 to 2030, which was adopted by CBD COP16. This updated strategy introduces 41 voluntary actions directly aligned with the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. BGCI undertook this work as the Secretariat of the Global Partnership for Plant Conservation, which includes governments, technical experts, and the global plant conservation community. Through BGCI's global networks, particularly the GCCFP, institutions share data, consolidate conservation priorities, and facilitate responsible material exchange in line with the treaty's provisions, as well as those of the Convention on Biological Diversity. BGCI looks forward to strengthening cooperation with contracting parties to improve the conservation status of the world's plant diversity and the food systems that we depend on for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the information. And I have now as last speaker, research or CSO. It's position 1A43. You have the floor.
Hola. Hi, everyone, and thanks for giving me this opportunity. I'm Arturo Garcia, representative of FIAN International, together with IPCC. I cannot mention my country of origin for a very simple reason. It's not a contracting party, but it's one of the greatest involuntary contributors to the multilateral system, according to GLIS data of approximately 2 million DOIs registered worldwide. At least 10% come from my country, all made available to the MLS by an international organization based in my country, CIMIT, working mainly with corn and wheat. This means that a single non-contracting country provides a 10th part of the global wealth of MLS, and if the annex of the treaty would be enhanced, as has been discussed these days, and my country would like to sign it in the future, its contributions would increase even more, enhancing the inequality gap. That we would provide a lot of resources and receive very few gains. Between 1940 and 1992, the year in which I was born, CIMIT compiled in my country, or gathered, most of the germplasm that nurtures global genetic breeding. All happened before the CBD, without any obligations of sharing gains with the peasants and indigenous of my country. Therefore, although my country has not ratified this international treaty, it contributes a lot to the MLS. This is a historical loophole, but that has turned into a mandatory contribution without any equitable benefit-sharing mechanisms. This is not only a legal issue, it's an example of biopiracy, and is a structural violation of the rights of peasant and indigenous communities whose millennial work has enabled this, and all this is being ignored by the current architecture of the system. For each seed that we keep in the vault right at the end of the world, we all have the ethical obligation of sowing it with at least 100 peasant and indigenous families in the territories where those resources came from. Because of our love to the earth, we can't base all this on a lack of justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This brings us to the end of the discussions on this agenda item. Thank you very much for your contributions and suggestions to amend the draft resolutions. I'll ask the Secretariat to integrate them, and we will come back with the draft, with a new version of the draft resolutions. This brings us to the next agenda item, which is agenda item 17.1 on the review of the multi-year program of work for the international treaty for 2026 to 2031. And I give the floor to the Secretariat to introduce this item and related documentation. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As provided in the chapeau of the multi-year program of work of the governing body, the MIPO would be reviewed and updated at each governing body session, as it is a rolling plan to structure future work program of the governing body. Accordingly, the document IT/GB11/25/17.1 presents an updated MIPO for the period 2026 to 2031. The draft updated MIPO covers the next 3 sessions of the governing body from the 12th to the 14th sessions. It has been developed primarily based on the outcomes of the work by relevant subsidiary bodies and the process made in the implementation of international treaties since the 10th session. In addition, the pertinent decisions made by relevant international bodies, as well as the outcomes of related processes, have also been taken into account for the development of the updated MIPO, as those have impacts and implications for the implementation of the international treaty. The summary information on the updates and new outputs and milestones are provided in the section 2 of the document. Those are to sustain and enhance the progress made while accommodating emerging and evolving needs arising in a rapidly changing environment surrounding the international treaty. The governing body is invited to review and adapt the multi-year program of work 2026 to 2031, which is contained in Annex 1 to the document, subject to revisions that it may consider appropriate, including based on the decisions taken at this session regarding future work of the governing body. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I would now like to open the floor for comments. We will also then, after this first round of comments, we will have, of course, a process in place where we can then integrate any items necessary that come out of decisions that we will be making during this governing body session. With that, I open the floor for interventions. I recognize Japan. Japan, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Sorry for the lag. Japan would like to comment on the farmers' rights on the multilateral program. I think it will be very important for us to exclude category 10 of the options for us to support this, approve this multi-year program. And we will be handing our comments in for the specific parts of this multilateral year program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Japan. I have Denmark. Denmark, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I speak on behalf of the European Regional Group. We thank the Secretariat for preparing the draft multi-year program of work. We recognize the effort to integrate the outcomes of work by subsidiary bodies, decisions from other international processes, and progress achieved since the 10th session. We underline the importance of maintaining flexibility in the MIPOF to respond to evolving priorities such as developments in related international processes. We encourage the Secretariat to continue improving coherence and efficiency across intersessional work and coordination among treaty mechanisms. We note that the MIPOF contains outputs and milestones recorded in brackets, which are subject to relevant decisions taken during this governing body session. Other items mentioned in the MIPOF, currently not in brackets, will also be discussed. For example, the work under AXU or the funding target. Therefore, this MIPOF should be adjusted in line with the outcome of the discussions on the different agenda items throughout this week. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Denmark. Of Sierra Leone, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairperson. In the first place, I want to say a lot of thanks to FAO for, supporting a government representative that is in the person of the Deputy Minister to be in this forum. I want to say, like all that have been discussed as far as it started today, I want to say I highly appreciate on behalf of my government for what strategies have been put in place for ensuring that, something's happened as far as food is concerned, especially we in Sierra Leone. We are seriously fighting to ensure that we become food sovereign in our country. We are tired of importation of food. Ideas like this being put together, and if we come and listen to them and ensure that we implement them, I'm sure we are heading in the right direction. So once more, I want to say thank you for the governing body for bringing us together and for the support given to us by FAO. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sierra Leone. I don't see any other requests for the floor. I have Lesotho. Lesotho, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. On behalf of the Africa Regional Group Chair, Lesotho takes this floor to comment on the working paper, review of the multi-year program of the work of the international treaty prepared by the Secretary, and in consideration of other related documents, the updated multi-year program of work for 2026-2031 provides a clear, structured, and adaptive roadmap for the implementation of the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. The Secretary is acknowledged for carefully outlining all the achievements for the current biennium and for articulating the proposed plan of work for the next 3 biennium. Despite the difficulties the treaty is going through to finalize the enhancement of the functioning of the MLS, the plan is optimistic and has included this item for implementation in the next biennium. For the Africa region, this rolling plan is a vital tool for strategic engagement. The plan has a consideration of all the items, including farmers' rights, capacity development strategy, DSI, GSD, that are crucial to the Africa region. And this ensures our priorities are integrated into the global agenda over the next 3 governing body sessions, building on recent progress and decisions. The work plan focuses on enhancing efficiency, fostering synergies, and responding to emerging issues that directly support our efforts to achieve a balanced realization of the treaty's objectives, from conservation and sustainable use to the fair and equitable sharing of benefits. We welcome this coherent framework as a foundation for strengthening our regional contribution and leveraging the treaty's mechanism to address our specific challenges and opportunities in the management of plant genetic resource for food and agriculture. The Africa region further knows that while the plan presented here for review is comprehensive enough, Additional issues of crucial importance for advancing the objective of the treaty could arise and require a further review of the presented plan of work. Africa is also cognizant of the fact that implementation of the proposed plan will also be likely affected by the financial contributions to the budget of the treaty. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Lesotho. Speaking on behalf of Africa, I have Norway. Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a clarification. We did it yesterday, but I think it's good to repeat it regarding farmers' rights and the category 10 of the options. That category, it was dealt with in GB9, and the consensus was to make a footnote to capture that this was one of the coaches, that this was the coach's proposal, and as such, the GB took note of the options as a whole and requested the Secretariat to publish the options with category 10, including the footnote. And then on GB10 decided to mandate ATEC to provide advice to GB11 on how to use the options as contained in the annex to the resolution 7/2022 for the implementation of Article 9 of the International Treaty and how it can be promoted. This involves the whole document, including category 10 with this footnote. Thus, we think that we should stick to our decisions and or agreed treaty language. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Norway. Any other requests for taking the floor? I have Egypt. Egypt, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. The Near East region would like to thank the Secretariat for the preparation of this review of the multi-year program of the work of the international treaty and appreciates the efforts to update the priorities in line with the technical, scientific, and emerging needs of the member states. The Near East region confirms that this multi-year program that is cohesive and clear is a necessary tool in order to provide strategic guidance that is effective and strengthen the capacity of countries to plan ahead and implement activities relating to PGRFA. The Near East region insists that it is important to include priorities taking into account the challenges that the Near East region countries face, particularly climate change, desertification, water scarcity, and the degradation when it comes to the diversity of genetic resources and the limited national legislations available. This needs to be taken into account, and our region supports including clear activities to strengthen the multi-party system and strengthening the technological advances in our region when it comes to this area. And this program needs to give priority to the implementation of Article 9 regarding farmers' rights and supporting the traditional practices and knowledge, strengthening the capacities of farmers and breeders and international institutions in conserving PGRFA and the sustainable use of the PGRFA. And this program needs to be in line with the work of technical authorities and institutions and agencies affiliated with FAO and the international initiatives relating to biodiversity and agriculture in order to maximize the benefits from international efforts. Our region reiterates the importance of measurable indicators of performance as part of this program in order to follow up closely on any progress achieved and take into account the lessons learned from the past. Our region confirms that the success of this program relies on a sustainable financing and supporting developing countries in order to guarantee the implementation of suggested activities in a fair and equitable way. The Near East region reiterates support to the Secretariat in this effort for the review of the multi-year program and looks forward to positively cooperating and putting together an ambitious program that takes into account the needs of the countries and strengthen the role of the institutions in preserving the diversity of PGRFA. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Egypt, this brings us to the close of the list of interventions. So as way forward, the Bureau will further update the draft MIPO as appropriate based on the review of relevant resolutions adopted by the session, and it will present it at the plenary for consideration and adoption at the appropriate time. With that, I would move on to the next agenda item, which is item 17.2, consideration of digital sequence information and genetic resources for the objective of the international treaty. And I just give a few minutes to the Secretariat to change on the podiums. Thank you, Raj. Now, before we go into this agenda item, there's a quick technical announcement by the Secretariat. Kent, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a brief technical announcement for when delegates that want to intervene. If you want to intervene and request for the floor, press your microphone only once. It's a turn green. When the chair calls, you don't press again because they will activate your mic from the audiovisual equipment over there. So because when you press, the second time you cut yourself up and then you start playing, back and forth with the technician trying to activate your microphone. Thank you very
much. Thank you, Kent. With that, I open the agenda item 17.2, consideration of digital sequence information on genetic resources for the objectives of the international treaty. And I will give the floor to the Secretariat for the introduction to the relevant documents that containing a compilation of information received from contracting parties and other stakeholders on capacity building needs for accessing and using DSI/GSD. Francisco, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this 10th session, the governing body requested the Secretary to continue monitoring developments in other relevant international fora and to support the subsidiary bodies in taking into account related developments when addressing the issue of DSI-GSD. The working document for this Agenda 17.2 contains a review of the relevant developments that have occurred at the Convention on Biological Diversity centered on Decision 16/2 of the CBD COP, which adopted the modalities for operationalizing the multilateral mechanism for the fair and equitable sharing of benefits from the use of DSI on genetic resources, including the Cali Fund. Based on the text of Decision 16/2, it is noted in the document, among other matters, that an indicative list of sectors to which commercial users expected to contribute a portion of their profit or revenue to the Cali Fund may belong includes animal and plant breeding. The approach to benefit sharing Decision 16/2 does not affect the right and obligations of any party deriving from any existing international agreement. Decision 16/2 will be implemented in a way that it is mutually supportive of and adaptive to other international ABS instruments on DSI on genetic resources to avoid the staking of obligation and, where appropriate, to streamline processes. The Cali Fund operates under the oversight of a steering committee whose actual membership includes 2 members from United Nations entities, namely UNEP Secretary of the CBD and the UNDP. The document also provides information on the relevant developments that occurred at the 20th regular session of the Commission Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, which, among other matters, stress the importance of coordinating efforts among the different legal instruments and processes relevant to DSI on genetic resources for mutual supportiveness. And also at the World Health Organization, which at the 78th World Health Assembly formally adopted by consensus the WHO Pandemic Agreement. Regarding the support to subsidiary bodies by the Secretary in relation to DSI GSD, the document contains information which cross-references to the respective working documents for this session on the support provided to all the committee's expert group that met in the intersessional period. At its 10th session, the governing body also requested the Secretary to compile information from contracting parties and other stakeholders on activities to reduce the existing gap on capacity regarding DSI GSD between developed and developing countries. The information document for this agenda item, 17.2 Inf 1, contains the compilation of the submission received. Mr. Chair, the governing body is invited to consider the report on the developments in international fora regarding DSI, GSD, and provide guidance as to the implication of such developments for the objective of the international treaty. The governing body is also invited to consider the submission of information regarding activities to reduce the existing gap on capacity regarding DSI GSD between developed and developing countries and provide guidance as to possible further actions in that regard. Working document 17.2 contains corresponding elements for a draft resolution in its annex. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. And as you all know, this is also an item that is considered under a different agenda item. So please be aware of that when you make your interventions. I would now like to open the floor for comments and guidance and for suggestions on the draft resolution contained in the document. The floor is open and I recognize Canada. Canada, vous avez la parole.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of the North America region. North America thanks the Secretariat and those who provided submissions for their input and compilation on activities to reduce the existing gap on capacity regarding DSI/GSD. Enabling everyone to effectively access, share, and use genetic sequence data is a key component of addressing concerns regarding DSI/GSD and contributes to meeting the objectives of the treaty. North America considers that CBD Decision 16.2, outlining the modalities of the multilateral mechanism for sharing benefits from the use of digital sequence information on genetic resources, constitutes a significant development addressing how benefit sharing can function for the special circumstances of intangible genetic sequence data. We believe, however, that several elements of the decision remain to be further explored based on further evidence, analysis, and consultation, and the studies on the various technical components that will be prepared and commissioned by the CBD Secretariat in the intersessional period leading to COP17. North America is supportive of the draft resolution, but has some suggested text revisions to clarify and streamline elements of the text and associated actions. In the draft resolution, in paragraph 2, we would like to replace welcomes with takes note of Decision 16.2. In paragraph 3, we would like to suggest some text edits so that the paragraph reads, encourages contracting parties to the ITPGRFA in their national implementation of access and benefit sharing to take into account areas for mutually supportive and non-duplicative implementation across relevant international instruments. And lastly, we believe that paragraph 8 should be removed as it would be repeating activities just completed in the previous biennium. We have sent these text suggestions to the Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Canada. On behalf of North America, I have Japan, followed by Germany. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of the Asian region. The Asia region sincerely thanks the IDPGRFA Secretariat for its efforts to continue monitoring developments in other relevant international fora. We also would like to express our gratitude to the research institute that contribute to providing sequence data of plant genetic resources, as they are important for plant breeding and thereby contribute to ensuring food security. With respect to the treatment of DSI/GSD under the MLS, this is one of the hotspots under the agenda item 9.2, and the discussion should take place as part of the package. With this in mind, the Asia region would like to emphasize that while DSI/GSD is being discussed in various fora, we would like to ask the Secretariat to continue close coordination with them and to keep the governing body fully informed. In particular, under the CBD, decisions on the details of a multilateral mechanism are expected in the coming period. For this reason, we would like to highlight the importance of close coordination, especially with the CBD. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Japan, speaking on behalf of Asia, with Germany, followed by Tunisia. Germany, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I speak on behalf of the European Regional Group. I would like to thank the Secretariat for providing overview of the recent developments on DSI-GSD and other fora, and request the Secretariat to continue this work in the upcoming intersessional period. We welcome CBD COP Decision 16.2 on the multilateral mechanism for the fair and equitable sharing of benefits from the use of DSI on genetic resources, including a global fund, and note that Decision 16.2 does not affect the rights and obligations of contracting parties deriving from the international treaty. We note that the DSI MLM does not cover DSI that is subject to benefit sharing under other international ABS instruments. The MLS enhancement process gives us the opportunity to address DSI in a way that suits our sector, as discussed in item 9.2. We welcome the convening of an open-ended multi-stakeholder workshop organized by the Secretariat of the Commission on Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture in partnership with the Secretariats of the CBD and the International Treaty on the implications of Decision 16.2 of the CBD. We request that the Secretary continues to cooperate with the Secretary of the CBD to ensure mutual supportive implementation and report back to the governing body. We thank CGIRR for their activities and appreciate their comprehensive work on capacity sharing with national agricultural research systems across the globe. This clearly demonstrates the importance of the generation and use of DSI-GSD for the conservation of crop diversity, as well as for crop improvement programs and for combating plant diseases. To strengthen such capacity building, we call on all countries and other stakeholders in a position to do so to enhance contributions to such capacity building activities. We want to emphasize that the use of all kinds of information on PGRFA, including DSI/GSD, is crucial for all three objectives of the treaty. Open access to information on PGRFA and DSI/GSD in public databases is essential to develop the plant varieties which are needed for our future food systems. I will now read out our amendments, which is after paragraph 4, a new paragraph which says, welcomes the convening of an open-ended multi-stakeholder workshop organized by the Secretariat of the Commission on Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture in partnership with the Secretariats of the CBD and the International Treaty on the implications of Decision 16.2. No, it was an addition to the 5th paragraph, and then it says, and further requests the Secretariat to continue coordinating with both Secretariats in any activities related to DSI-GSD in order to ensure coherence and avoid duplication of work. And then another request is a new paragraph 5 bis requests the Secretariat to continue to cooperate with the Secretary of the CBD to ensure mutual supportive implementation and report back to the governing body. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Germany speaking on behalf of Europe. I have Tunisia followed by Egypt. Tunisia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tunisia have the honor to speak on behalf of the Africa region. The Africa region thanks the Secretary for the comprehensive report on development related to digital sequence information, genetic sequence data, in all relevant international fora. We appreciate the clarity provided on the potential implications of this development for the objectives and functioning of the international treaty. Africa takes note that there is still no internationally agreed definition or terminology for GSA/GSD. We support the continued use of the term GSI-GSD until consensus is reached. And we stress the importance of ensuring that any agreed terminology remains coherent with the specificities of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. Even in the absence of globally agreed GSI definition, Africa is recognizing of the bold steps already taken by other fora, including the Convention on Biological Diversity, who, through Decision 16/2, have established a multilateral mechanism for benefit sharing from the use of GSI, including the Cali Fund. We welcome this development, but underline that this decision should not affect the rights and obligations of contracting parties under the international treaty. Africa calls for strong coordination to guarantee mutual supportiveness between the CBD, its Nagoya Protocol, and the international treaty, particularly regarding access and benefit sharing. Africa reiterates that reducing the existing capacity gap between developed and developing countries on GSA/GSD is a matter of priority. Most African countries still face significant limitations in digital infrastructure, data generation, bioinformatics, and research capacities. Without targeted investments and sustained support, our region will remain unable to fully benefit from advances in genomics and from GSA-based innovations. In this regard, Africa strongly supports operative paragraphs encouraging technical assistance, technology transfer on mutual agreed terms, training opportunities, scientific operations, and dedicated financial support. We call on partners with the necessary means to enhance their contributions and to work closely with our institutions and research centers. We further encourage contracting parties and relevant stakeholders to share information on their activities related to capacity development in GSA/GSD. We value the proposal for the Secretariat to compile this information for the next session. Africa supports the request for the Secretariat in cooperation with the FAO and relevant partners to implement concrete activities aimed at strengthening our regional capacities in the generation, access, and use of GSE/GSD for research and development, subject to available financial resources. Mr. Chair, The Africa regions remain fully committed to constructive engagement in this process, ensuring that development related to GSE/GSG contribute to fair, equitable benefit sharing and to safeguarding our shared plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. However, we concerned that some contracted parties and the region continue to state that GSG/GSG related to PGRFA does not fall under the jurisdiction of the international treaty and its MLS, simply because there is no explicit use of the phrase GSC in the treaty. We have hereunder proposed some amendment to the draft resolution. Allow me, Mr. Chair, with your permission, to present this amendment. So the proposed amendment on the draft resolution for the bullet point 2, we recommend to add at the end of this paragraph the operations, no, before to add just after Califund and notes that decision 16/2 does not affect the rights and obligation of, and we add states as contracting parties under the international treaty, and we add at the end, and the operations of multilateral mechanism are without prejudice to national law on the use of GSI on genetic resources. In the bullet point 3, we recommend to remove to take into account and to insert to give due consideration, to remove as well as the need for the mutual, and instead to put and to ensure mutually, and at the end of the paragraph, remove and the international treaty and to insert in full respect of the distinct mandates of the respective instruments. We also recommend to add a new paragraph just after the paragraph 5. It will be 5 bis, and it will be, I'm going to read it, recognizes that GSE/GSG on PGRFA made available through the multilateral system is being addressed within the agenda item on the enhancement of the functioning of the multilateral system, and decides that recipients, including the Article 15 international institution hosting PGRFA collection, to generate a published GSA/GSG on PGRFA only after obtaining the explicit consent of the country of origin of the PGRFA, until the governing body adopts a final decision ensuring no discriminatory access for researchers and a mandatory benefit-sharing obligation arising from the use of GSE/GSG on PGRFA accessed through the multilateral system. And finally, for the paragraph 6, we recommend to add at the end of the paragraph and acknowledges the importance of sustaining these efforts. We will submit our amendment to the Secretariat by written. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Merci la Tunisie. I have Egypt followed by South Africa. Egypt, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, the Near East region supports the proposal from Africa to add 5 bis and 6 bis as well. And I am speaking on behalf of the Near East region and the Arab Republic of Egypt. We would like to thank the Secretariat for preparing the document, and the region underscores the importance of using DSI and for improving the varieties given the climate change stresses. The region underscores the need to put a officially acknowledged definition regarding DSI or GSD, and the region welcomes establishing a multilateral mechanism for the benefit sharing of digital sequence information when it comes to the CBD. And we underscore that this should not impact the rights of the contracting parties and their obligations, whereby the treaty is concerned with plant genetic resources for food and agriculture, and it takes into consideration the provisions of the treaty. And the Near East region underscores the need to have the digital sequence information for PGRFA have compulsory monetary benefits. And therefore, the region stresses the importance on using DSI or GSD for benefit sharing when it comes to an equal and just sharing of the benefits. And it takes into consideration the negotiations of the treaty. And we also stress the need to have all the Near East region calls for encouraging the transfer of technology, training and capacity building and cooperation in order to close the gap in the capabilities when it comes to digital sequence information or genetic sequence data between developing countries and developed countries. And the Near East region underscores the importance of non-monetary benefits sharing in building capacity and technology transfer for developing countries for when it comes to digital sequence information. And the Near East region also underscores the importance of adopting GLIS for access to DSI under Annex 1 in order to enhance transparency and traceability. And we underscore the importance of the developments that happened in the previous forums, where the Near East region expresses the importance of the developments in the outcomes of the CBD and the importance of providing DSI emerging from a voluntary benefit sharing. And we stress that DSI should be treated the same way as PGRFA is treated, and it should have benefits, especially when it comes to being under the context of the international treaty. And thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Egypt, speaking on behalf of the Near East region. I have South Africa, Cameroon, Uganda, United States of America, Brazil. After the statement of South Africa, I would like to close the list of interventions. So you have a few minutes to press the button. South Africa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson. South Africa would also like to thank the governments of Peru and Switzerland for hosting this session of the GB. We also thank the Secretariat for the organization and smooth running thereof. South Africa aligns with the position of the Africa region on digital sequence information. The discussions center around whether DSI is a genetic material or just information. South Africa believes that the drafters of the international treaty already acknowledged that information on genetic material is an integral part and cannot be separated from the resource. The drafters already envisaged that there will be future technologies associated with the plant genetic resource, including genetic information thereof. We see that this is evident in several articles of the treaty itself, from Article 2 on the definition of genetic material, which tells that the material that is the subject of the treaty contains functional units of heredity. There is no ambiguity in this definition. Chairperson, this is probably the reason why paragraph 12 of Resolution 1 of 2015 on measures to enhance the functioning of the MLS, emphasizing the importance of collections that are fully characterized and evaluated, including for specific traits, genomic and phenotypic characterization, and appeals to both contracting parties and natural and legal persons to make available in the multilateral system together with related characteristic information. This clearly links genomic information with the multilateral system. Likewise, Article 12.3c and 12.3d of the treaty directly linked genetic parts or components with PGRFA and the multilateral system. Furthermore, Article 13BI states that contracting parties shall provide and/or facilitate access to such technologies and genetic material which is under MLS and to improved varieties and genetic material developed through the use and provisions in accordance to provisions of Article 12. And we know that Article 12.4 clearly states that facilitated access must be through an SMTA. We do acknowledge that digital sequence information is not defined. We, however, do not believe that terms like genomic information and genetic sequence cannot be used, as these are standard scientific terms and can be included in the SMTA. Chairperson, South Africa believes that genetic sequences or genetic information is an integral part and cannot be separated from the physical resource, and therefore access and benefit sharing from utilization thereof must be addressed in accordance to the relevant provisions of Part 4 of the treaty pertaining to the MLS. We support Africa that this should be considered in the objectives of the treaty and expressly stated in the SMTA and various resolutions in relevant agenda items where Africa calls for the inclusion of digital sequence information. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, South Africa. I have Cameroon followed by Uganda. Cameroon, vous avez la parole.
Cameroon, you have the floor. Chair, thank you. Cameroons congratulates the Secretariat on the documents prepared with regarding genetic sequence data for improved agriculture. We support the declaration of the Africa region made by Tunisia and that which was made by South Africa. We understand that there may be some duplication in what I'm saying, but it is because we are in agreement with our friends. We salute the recognition that DSI, GSD in research and innovation and the adaptation of food systems in spite of the climate changes. Nevertheless, we express our deep concern for the operational aspects as well as the just and equitable benefit sharing in accordance with Article 13 of the treaty. The argument that we often hear is that there's no definition of DSI, GSD. However, what we wish to signal here is that the governing body of the treaty is sufficiently well armed to provide such a definition. Today, DSIs that are often used without obligation of the origin and without sharing the advantages, that exposes our resources to pirating risks. With AI, it is something that we need to take into account, particularly without the adequate compensation. Again, DSI and GSD are inextricably linked. And so the genetic resources and the data is a central part of the multilateral system. We need to be able to manage a DSI, GSD to guarantee that their usage continues to bring benefits to users. This is what leads us to request the governing body here that in the process of the MLS that it must be implicitly recognized that these rights be recognized and, of course, benefit sharing. DSI, GSD must be integrated into the benefit sharing mechanisms, notably through the subscription option. it should be put in place, minimum deposits through the DSI GSD. We remain determined to contribute in a constructive and positive manner to the drafting of just and equitable, technologically realistic mechanisms, including in the case of the definition, agreeing on a definition of DSI GSD. I thank you.
Merci.
Thank you, Cameroon.
Followed by the United States of America. Uganda, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Uganda aligns itself with a statement made by Tunisia and associates itself with a statement made by South Africa and also Cameroon. Mr. Chairman, Uganda believes that for the governing body to make progress, the issue of integrating digital sequence information into the monetary benefit sharing framework of the treaty and not considering it based on how it is evolving in other international fora is paramount at this governing body and must be prioritized. Uganda reiterates that Africa has consistently proposed that digital sequence information be explicitly incorporated as part of the mechanism of implementing the treaty to facilitate capacity building, improve the plant breeding technologies, and facilitate access and sharing of benefits arising from utilization of PGRFA through the established Maitato system. Uganda recalls that the governing body identified digital sequence information as a priority issue and a hotspot for enhancement of the Maitato system under Resolution 3/2023 that would shape decisions at Governing Body 11 under Resolution 6/2023. Uganda is convinced that we have enough information as reported in document IT/GB-11/25/17.2 to establish that digital sequence information is part of the mechanism for implementing the objectives of the treaty and will greatly enhance the functioning of the Maitato system. It is no longer tenable, Mr. Chairman, to look at digital sequence information as a placeholder term or simply monitor developments on digital sequence information. Uganda firmly maintains that there are various methods of legal interpretation designed to ensure consistency and effective application of terms to new situations as well as aid its adapting to societal changes. For instance, Uganda underscores Article 31 and 32 of the Vienna Convention on the Law of the Treaties of 1969, which provides that when interpreting treaties, the terms therein should be given the ordinary meaning, taking into consideration the context of their use, their objective, and purpose. We need to acknowledge that the fact that digital sequence information is not simply a matter of policy preference, but it is a legal obligation necessary to fulfill the objectives and purpose of the treaty, particularly in the current era characterized by significant advancements in genomics. Uganda therefore proposes to delete draft resolution 1 because it was already adopted in 2023. Secondly, to draft resolution 4, we propose to delete monitor and replace it with engage. We also propose to add a draft resolution, Mr. Chairman, resolution 10, which would read as follows: decides to establish an ad hoc committee to support the Secretary on measures of integrating digital sequence information (GSD) as a treaty implementation mechanism with a mandate to develop concrete and technically sound modalities for accessing and sharing benefits derived from the use of digital sequence information on PGRFA for consideration at the 13th governing body. We request that the proposals be reflected in the refined draft elements for consideration. Uganda remains objective that digital sequence information incorporation will be adopted as one of the measures for enhancing the functioning of the multilateral system in implementation of the treaty. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Uganda, I have the United States, followed Brazil, and then Germany. United States, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The United States aligns itself with the statement made by Canada on behalf of the region. In addition, we have 2 edits to propose to draft resolution text in our national capacity. In OP3, we would request to add the words non-derogatory after mutually supportive, so it would read mutually supportive, comma, non-derogatory, comma, and non-duplicative. And then in operative paragraph 7, we would request to add voluntary and before mutually agreed terms. Thank you.
Thank you. The United States, Brazil, followed by Germany. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We would like to thank the Secretary to prepare the documents. Brazil wishes to underline that the issue of digital sequence information is cross-cutting and forms an integral part of the negotiation package on the enhancement of the multilateral system. For this reason, any definition or arrangement concerning benefit sharing from the use of DSI must take into consideration the developments under the overall package in a manner that is coherent with all its other elements. In this context, we emphasize the importance of ensuring complementarity, coherence, and mutual supportiveness with the advances under the Convention on Biological Diversity, particularly CBD decisions 15/9 and 16/2. Any agreement on DSI must safeguard open access to digital sequence information, facilitate research and innovation, and ensure fair and equitable benefit sharing in accordance with applicable international obligations. With respect to document 17.2, in paragraph 2, Brazil suggests the deletion of the following words: as part of the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, given that the multilateral mechanism established by CBD Decision 16.2 is not a component of GBF itself. Unlike the GBF, which is time-bound, the mechanism is expected to continue. In paragraph 5, we suggest adding and the reporting burden on parties, in particular developing countries, at the end of the paragraph. We also request the paragraph on the provision of financial resources and technical assistance from Resolution 16/2023 be reproduced in verbatim after paragraph 6, as these elements are essential to support developing countries in effectively implementing their commitments. And I will submit it in written. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Brazil. Germany, followed by Kenya. Germany, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having heard several proposals made here, I would like to flag that I think our region is not ready to introduce bilateral access and benefit sharing measures on DSI under this treaty. Thank you.
Thank you. Germany, Kenya, followed by Niger. Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Kenya aligns itself with the African region position as read by Tunisia and supported by both South Africa and Uganda in affirming that digital sequence information represents an intrinsic derivative of the PGRFA shared within the multilateral system of the international treaty. Chair, we invite all contracting parties to align with this position in all deliberations touching on PGRFA and DSI as necessary to further the overall intentions and objectives of the treaty. This understanding will support the fulfillment of the Secretariat's mandate to monitor DSI developments while emphasizing the genetic information represented by DSI arises from PGRFA exchanged in the MLS and avoid fragmented regulatory approaches that could undermine equitable benefit sharing and capacity building objectives vital for developing countries. Thank you.
Niger, you have the floor. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Niger supports the Africa Region Declaration made by Tunisia and other African countries which preceded us, and we affirm that the reduction of the gap between developed and developing countries with regard to DSI and GST is a priority issue. Most of the African countries are confronted with limitations in terms of digital infrastructure, production of data on biodiversity information, as well as research capacity. As such, Niger supports the proposal of the Africa region with regard to encouraging knowledge transfers according to mutually beneficial agreements. Scientific cooperation as well as financial support is needed. Additionally, we need to have greater resources to enable us to work in closer collaboration with other stakeholders. We encourage the contracting parties with regard to widening the exchange of information on their activities in order to strengthen capacity building on DSI and GSD. Additionally, we note that the DSI GSD activities are rooted in living information, evolving information, and all of the working groups must take this into account in their conclusions for this session. Finally, we support the amendments submitted by Tunisia on paragraphs 2, 3, and 6 on the draft resolution. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. I have
Thank you kindly.
by Rwanda, then Sudan, then Argentina. Yemen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, we support the proposal submitted by the African region, also by the Near East region, as well as adding clause number 5 because of the lack of tools regarding DSI and saving the information on genetic resources. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Followed by Sudan. Rwanda, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you, the chairperson. Rwanda fully supports the statement of Africa and fully agree with Uganda's statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I have Sudan and Argentina. With that, the list of speakers is closed. Sudan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the Near East region supports the African region and underlines their need for DSI and GSD as part of enhancing the multilateral system, or the SMTA, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Argentina, followed by Libya. And then I have two observer organizations. Argentina, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señor.
Thank you very much, Chair. So as to facilitate the work of interpreters and the Secretariat, we will continue in English, although we love speaking Spanish.
Thank the report on document ITGB 11/25/72. In particular, we support the actions described in Section 4 for the reduction of the capacity gap between developed and developed countries. Regarding the draft resolution, we support the proposals that precede us, especially from African and Near East regions. And we do request the introduction of a new paragraph that will be paragraph 4 bis. As it says, request the Secretary, when reporting the operations of the multilateral system, to consider the implications of the use of the related DSI, GSD, in particular under the actions of the Article 15 institutions, as a contribution for the transparency of the system, which will help to ensure the respect of the access conditions of the resources according to Article 12.13, and benefit sharing under the Article 13, on pursuing the objectives of the international treaty. Finally, we do remind that this item of the agenda is related to item 9, mentioned in our opening session. Therefore, we do reserve any decision on this item until its joint treatment with the enhancement of the multilateral system has been made. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Argentina. I have Libya and followed by Zimbabwe. And please, if this is just to express support of the proposal made by Tunisia on behalf of Africa, we would take note of that, and you would not need necessarily to intervene. Libya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the opportunity to speak. Libya supports the proposal of Africa and also supports that بينتهي الموضوع في إصلاح نظام ليس قائما وأن الحلم زيادة المنافع لن يتحقق على الإطلاق. نحن نطلب من الدول المتعاقدة أن تدعم اقتراحنا. شكرا سيد الرئيس. شكرا لبيانك. لدينا منظمة المجتمع المدني كمتحدث أخير. شكرا سيدي الرئيس. إن المعاهدة الدولية هي فريدة، وأن الأطراف المتعاقدة هنا ليس لديها الحقوق ولكن الالتزام لمشاركة الموارد الجينية النباتية بطريقة متعددة الأطراف، وهذا يزيد من مسؤولية الاتفاقية أن المعلومات متأتية من النظام المواد بما في ذلك معلومات التسلسل الوراثي لا تستخدم بطريقة تتفادى مقاسمة أو تقاسم المنافع. إن يجب دعم النظام متعدد الأطراف، وكذلك هذا يجب أن تولد بيانات رقمية، وهذه البيانات تتدفق بشكل حر من دون أي ضمانات. ونحن نعيد تأكيد ما يحذرنا به المزارعون والبحوث، التنوع البيولوجي والنقدي، وأيضا تسويق المواد من دون تقاسم المنافع، وهذا يشكل خطرا أو يمهد طريق إلى القرصنة. إذا تم النفاذ إلى هذه المواد، فإن التشريعات الوطنية في الاتحاد الأوروبي يسمح بالفعل بأن تطرق اتفاق SMT أن تطرق إلى معلومات استثمارية، ولكن نحن نفتقد إلى اتفاقيات ثنائية من الولايات المتحدة وأيضا ربما من الدول الأفريقية لقد تعاملت مع بيانات تسلل رقمي من تلك خلال اتفاقات الثنائية، ولكن في هذه الدول ترفض النفاذ أو إدخال DSI في SMTA، ولكن هذا يعد معيارا مزدوجا. يجب التطرق إلى ذلك في النظام متعدد الأطراف بموجب الاتفاقية، ولهذه الأسباب فإن يجب الاعتراف BDSI كجزء من الموارد الجينية، ويجب إدخالها في نطاق SMTA، وإلا أن نظام النفاذ سيكون باليا وضعيفا. سيدي الرئيس، نحن ندعم ما سمعناه من أفريقيا وأيضا منطقة الشرق الأدنى، ونطلب كافة الأطراف المتعاقدة أن تعالج هذه المسألة وتعالج المعلومات الرقمية في ضوء SMTA. شكرا جزيلا المجتمع المدني. لدي كينيا والكاميرون. كينيا لك الكلمة.
Thank you, Chair. Kenya would like to support the statement made by IPC and the Third World Network. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya. Cameroon, you have the floor.
And I think we can give them a thankful address, but sometimes it's not good to point out troublemaker and in a plenary like this design them by their names. That's not diplomatically correct. I've been in this process for all the governing bodies from the time it was, again, the interim governing body. And there are things that I can say and witness, but we have to avoid pointing out fingers on some, especially contracting parties. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cameroon, for this reminder. Indeed, that's an important point. I have one last observer, and the list is closed. But before that, Niger, vous avez demandé la parole. Vous avez la parole.
Niger, you requested the floor. You now have the floor. Thank you, Chair. I wanted to support the declaration made with regard to the draft resolution 17.2. Thank you. Thank you. It is well noted.
Search, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Christine Frison. I speak on behalf of academia, University of Liège, Antwerp, and Louvain-la-Neuve. We are legal scholars specialized in public international law and intellectual property law, working on the ITBGRFA in close collaboration with biologists and plant scientists for over 20 years. We have no specific agenda or interest to defend in this negotiation room and no conflict of interest to declare. We are concerned about the current discussions on DSI and the persistent divisions where parties remain entrenched in their red lines regarding the inclusion or exclusion of DSI within the scope of the treaty. In order to contribute constructively to the negotiations of this specific agenda item, we drafted last night and this morning, upon the request of several contracting parties in the MLS contact group yesterday, a policy brief explaining the international law methods of interpretation confirming that DSI falls under the scope of the ITPGRFA and SMTA. We will print it and make it available over lunchtime. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, we concluded the first round of discussion on this agenda item, as I already lined out, and which was also repeated several times. Parts of this discussion relate to the discussion under 9.2. So we will see how that goes. Other proposals were made that do not relate directly to that discussion and can be included already in the draft resolution. With that, I would suspend the discussion on this item, and we will understand more how it develops when we further develop the item on 9.2, which is the enhancement of the multilateral system, as there is a clear link. With that, we ask the co-chairs of the contact group on the MLS to report back to plenary. We are almost on time, only 5 minutes late. So I see Michael or Sunil. I would like to give the floor to one of two. Australia, Michael, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The working group, the contact group, continued its discussions this morning. We had a discussion around possible rates to apply to an amended SMTA. The contact group confirmed that the rates identified by the working group, which is outlined in document 9.2 on page 7, it confirmed that those rates provide an indication of the viable rates for the package, but parties also noted that at the end of the day, the specifics of the rate depend very much on the details of the package. So we're still talking within that range, but no clarity about a particular range that appears to be a consensus. We then moved on to a discussion about the balance of package. So we'd had a balance of measures that make up a package. So we'd had fruitful discussion on a range of the elements, and then turned to discussing what might be an approach to a balanced package. Contracting parties and regions continue to express a willingness to move on issues and strong interest in a successful outcome at GB11. They also noted the need for consultation and further discussion before being able to speak particularly to proposals and ideas about how to balance the package of measures. So we explored some ideas. It was useful for understanding some issues of trade-off and balance to move towards a balanced package, but nothing conclusive. But as I said, strong interest in an outcome, willingness to move, but the need for further discussion and consultation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. You see, I'm a little bit a slow note taker, so that took a while. Thank you for that report of the contact group and of the progress made. I'm really indeed very glad that there is a strong interest in a successful outcome of this work. This report and the work the contact group undertook enables me to conduct consultations with regions in order to identify a potential landing zone for a consensus making. So I will invite the spokespeople of the regions to meet with me and the co-chairs this afternoon. one by one. So this will be bilateral meetings between the group, the co-chairs, me, and the regions. And we will have a discussion in order for us to better identify where is this a potential zone of compromise and consensus. So in this sense, the work of the contact group on the MLS is suspended until a further notice. I come now to the contact group of farmers' rights. The contact group of farmers' rights will meet this afternoon at between 3 and 6 o'clock. And the contact group on the conservation and sustainable use will meet at 6:30 and meet till 9:30 tonight. I would like to thank the interpreters who make that possible. Thank you very much. They're ready to give us a set of 3-hour interpretation time. I think that is important to move on. I would like to ask both sets of co-chairs, so the 4 co-chairs of those 2 groups, to report back to plenary tomorrow end of the morning. With that, I already said that we adapt a little bit the timetable in consultation with the Bureau. We will have a first plenary session tomorrow, not in the afternoon, but in the morning, so that provides us the opportunity, if need be, to have a plenary session the entire day, which would allow us to make a progress on the many issues we need to finalize. So again, this afternoon I will conduct consultations with the regions. In parallel, there will be contact group meetings, farmers' rights this afternoon, conservation and sustainable use later this afternoon at 6:30. I will ask the Secretariat to announce the rooms now, if you can. So I will maybe continue to talk until the Secretariat can announce those rooms. There will be certainly side events at lunchtime. Take advantage of that. But I really would like to encourage you to go to floor number 1. There is a wonderful exhibition of the crop diversity of this country. You have the chance to meet wonderful people down there, and there is even one or the other bottle of Bisco. You might try a drop a little bit from there, so really take advantage of that, and we will hopefully have the information on meeting rooms very quickly. So we have the rooms already. It's the Pachacama rooms that can be used for both contact group meetings. Now let me just give you the schedule for the consultations with the co-chairs and myself. So Southwest Pacific 2:30, GRULAC 3 o'clock, Near East 3:30, Africa 4 o'clock, Europe 4:30, Asia 5 o'clock, and North America at 5:30. The consultations will take place in a room of the Bureau. With that, any announcements from the Secretariat?
Yes, a quick update on as document starts emerging from the contact groups. We will start posting the links on the app so that you can access them. There's already 2 documents from Farmers' Rights Group that's accessible there. So from the menu, you can see where you have in-session documents, so you can access them there. So as documents emerge, as I said, from the groups, we keep posting them, so you can continue to look at the app for the latest versions of the documents or the outputs of the contact groups or any other smaller group that's working on an issue. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Secretary. With that, I would adjourn the plenary meeting. We will meet again in plenary tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock sharp. Thank you very much.